Hi, David Watts here with another quick video on using Luminar and getting a lot out of the program. And specifically, I noticed that with Luminar, I could use it to really breathe new life into old raw images. Let me get one loaded while we explain this just a bit. The value of raw images is that they are essentially a digital negative. And the theory was in the beginning that as technology improves and we learn to do better work with raw files, come back to these raw files in years to come. You'll always have them, and you'll get better results as programs and technology improve. And that's actually what I'm kind of seeing for the first time. So here's a raw file I took. First trip to Paris. It was a fantastic trip. Climbed up l'Arc de Triomphe. They're kind of in the around the 17th arrondissement, and fabulous views, obviously, of the Eiffel Tower at night. So let's see what we can do with this real quick. First thing I like to do is we get the horizon straighter because it wasn't so straight. And by the way, this image was taken on a Canon Rebel XTI, so I think 12 megapixels, maybe 10, I forget now, but comparatively primitive to what we have today. So anyway, let's see what we can do with it. So we've got the horizon a little bit straighter, and let's try this new accent AI filter and see what it might do for us. All right, so a little bit so far, but the one thing I missed that I always try to do first is set the white balance. And it's a little hard in this image. Where do we find something that's kind of a neutral gray? And maybe, well, let's just try this wall. Actually, let's try this side over here and see if that helps. Okay, that's probably getting us a little closer to reality. Now again, this is an art. You may want your image to have this, that's way too much, but you may want your image to sort of have a golden, warmer tone. But probably somewhere in here is about right, or you may want to go a little further this way. Let's stick right about in here. One thing I do like is the contrast between the golden lights of the Eiffel Tower and the blue of this rotating light up on top, this rotating beacon. Anyway, so playing with the accent filter, let's turn it off. All right, and back on. So it definitely boosted some of these shadows areas here just a bit. Let's go a little higher and just see what it does for us. Again, it sometimes can be a little hard to see if we're making a difference, but turn it off and back on. And we start to see we certainly have made a difference. One thing I do notice, I don't know if it's unique to old Canon RAW files or if it's just improvements to be made. Watch what happens here in these blown out areas when I take the accent that high. See, it does some terribly nasty things. So we have to back that off just a bit. And in fact, we might say in this area is about as far as we really want to go with it because of what it's doing out here to these highlight areas. Now, if you were going to crop this image, in fact, let's explore that just a moment. Let's crop this image. We're constrained to our original ratio. And let's decide just to control the image a little more by cropping it that way. Now, what do we do with the accent? All right, now we may have more latitude to do with it as we like. Let's see what happens here. I like to usually bring in a little bit of clarity. It just crispens things up a little bit. Again, if you need an indicator of what we're achieving, just turn that off and then back on. I kind of like what we're getting. A little more sharpness. Maybe that was too much. Saturation vibrance. It's worth a try. See what we get. All right. Something way out here at the edge. Way too much. But let's keep it about in here. I tend to prefer vibrance over saturation. Certainly, if there's people in the picture, vibrance brings up the colors a bit without affecting the skin tones too much. Saturation tends to affect the skin tones. But generally, I think vibrance maybe works just a little softer or not quite as harshly as saturation. Your mileage may vary. Let's check highlights and shadows. And playing around just a bit, I actually think it's helpful to bring those highlights down. Something about it brings out some of the texture a little bit more in the sky. And then See what happens with shadows. That's the wrong direction, I think. We end up with a very dark picture, but somewhere in here starts to feel pretty good to me. Now, I tend to think, and maybe there's a better explanation or a more scientific explanation, that when we're playing with highlights and shadows, we're sort of changing the ratio of those dark areas to bright areas. In fact, you'll notice the histogram up here as I boost the shadows. See, we're sort of bringing those up in the histogram. Those darker areas, bringing them more up, and if I move the other way, you see we're shifting it. So this again was about the right spot, but I tend to think of this as sort of affecting the balance, the ratio of highlights to shadows in the image. Sometimes the image still needs an overall increase in brightness, and so that's what I tend to do last. Bring that up a little bit. Again, if I want to see, well, what did I really change? Here's before, here's after. Okay, I think we made a little improvement there. Again, let's look at overall before and after, start to finish. There we were originally. Here's where we are. I think we've definitely made an improvement. Now, one of the things to always consider, especially in these older images, older cameras, technology not quite as good, noise. And I think you will see that we have definitely got some noise in the sky. It's not horrible, but why not see if we can eliminate some of that noise just a bit. So click that here on the right, the denoising tool. I think it's pretty good. So it'll show you split screen view. It's still image processing for a moment, but now we've got the split screen and the before and after. Clearly the after is helpful, but generally denoising kicks a lot of details out and you may not like the results. So let's go to one of the details we care about. We care about the Eiffel Tower, certainly the point of the picture. So let's see, does it badly muddy up the details of the structure, the bracing? And I think not. Now, as you look at this, by the way, keep in mind it's not nearly as sharp as you might expect from today's cameras. But then again, you're probably not going to be staring at it this closely. The point, though, is with the denoising, we really haven't lost much, in my judgment. Now, you can see up here the radio antenna. There's kind of a white area, a darker area, a white area. And, yeah, we've obscured that slightly, but I think it's worth it. Let's double check down in the city area just to see if we've created any huge problems down here. And, again, it certainly has blurred the edges slightly. Look here at this, probably some sort of air conditioning unit on top of the building. You certainly see the noise. It certainly removes it. It muddies it up slightly, but not bad. Certainly see huge noise up in here, this dark area, and really makes a big improvement. So I think overall, and this is light strength, and I generally have good luck with lightest or light. So let's stay on light. We click apply. It'll do some quick processing. One last point, when it comes back to us, it has added this noise reduction in a new layer. Maybe we'll make another video on layer, or layers seem to work similar to other programs, whether it be Affinity or probably Photoshop. But it's added a new layer, a denoise layer. And we're highlighted on this. This is our original image down here, this layer 0. If I click on it, I sort of go back to the original noisy image. But this denoise layer, we're sort of looking down through that layer into our original, and we're getting the benefit of the noise reduction. So, anyway, pretty quick. I think makes a nice improvement in an old photo. I think I'm finding that Luminar is a good way to bring some new life into old photos because the tools we had, this is from 2009, I should have said that. We just didn't have, at least in the kind of tools I was capable of using, the same level of control. Now we do. Here's the benefit of raw files. Digital negative exists in its original form, and we can maybe do better. So, hope that helps a little bit. Again, if you like the video, click like, click subscribe. I'll try to make some more. Maybe it helps. Have a good day.